Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Looking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. About half the work week in the rearview mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got Jordan Kitchens and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos with a little assist from Taylor Sharp. And we're off and running here on this Wednesday. Koki Riley with us in 15 minutes. Jay Johnson met with the media today for about 25 minutes. I listened to it all. We'll get a reaction from Koki. I'll talk about it a little bit in the second hour. It is a What If Wednesday, so we'll do a little bit of that at 1:30. Angel Reese has made her decision to go forward with her professional career in the WNBA. A little more about that coming up, and some SEC baseball power rankings coming your way at 2:30. Where do the Fighting Tigers fall now at 2-7? We'll do that at the bottom of hour number 2. I want to start with LSU football. Joe Sloan, LSU offensive coordinator, met with the media yesterday, and there was some sound that we didn't necessarily get to right at the top of yesterday's show, so I wanted to get into that a little bit because Sloan touched on a number of different topics, from the quarterbacks, which we did talk about yesterday, to the offensive line, the running game, some of that stuff that we'll get into at the top of hour number 2. But I wanted to spend the first part of the show today talking about some of the dynamics of the new offense. Obviously, you had Mike Denbrock, a longtime offensive coordinator, at the top of the food chain last year and the year before that. He was in charge. He ran the meetings. He helped with the quarterbacks. He called the plays. This was his offense with some direction from Brian Kelly. When he decides to move on and take the job at Notre Dame, Brian Kelly decided, okay, we're going to give these guys we've got on staff a shot. And by all accounts, everything went great in the bowl game. They kind of had a dress rehearsal for a month to get ready to play one football game. And LSU, without Jaden Daniels and without Malik Neighbors, went out there and played well offensively in the bowl game against Wisconsin. So there's reason to believe that this is going to be a very functional group, but it's still their first spring calling the shots, and they're moving into their first season as full-time overseers of the offense, as, of course, Joe Sloan and Cortez Hankton. This is a little bit of a different dynamic. Usually you'd rather have one chef in the kitchen instead of two. And I think in this case, Joe Sloan is the chef and Cortez Hankton's kind of the sous chef, but there are co-offensive coordinators at this point, and Joe Sloan spoke to his relationship with Cortez Hankton.
I think we have an unbelievable offensive staff, and Cortez, everybody sees his development at the receiver position. I think what people don't see is his ability to game plan, his ability to understand how to attack defenses in the passing game, and he was doing a ton of that last year. That's not anything new. And I think then where just with our new roles and his growth and just tying back in as well more into the run game, perimeter game, whether it be from an RPO standpoint or whatever that might be, and just his involvement there, we have an awesome working relationship.
It's just one of those things. I don't know how much Cortez Hankton did under Mike Denbrock with Joe Sloan. I don't know how that changed entering the Wisconsin game. I don't know how much more he's shouldering this year. I wish I could speak to that, but I can't. I'm not in the meeting rooms. I'm not at practice. I'm not there in film study to figure out who's doing what. But I can tell you that it sounds like there's a lot of mutual respect there, and that Cortez Hankton did have a lot on his plate last year as far as the passing game goes. I have no reason to believe that there's going to be some sort of monster drop-off with Mike Denbrock out of the picture and Cortez Hankton having a little bit more on his plate than just the wide receivers. I think it's going to be just fine. And Joe Sloan spoke to the fact that he actually has known Cortez Hankton for a long time.
I knew Tez when he first got done playing in the UFL, not this UFL, the old UFL. And he came over. I was a GA at South Florida, and he came over, and he and I met. He was trying to start to get into coaching. He and I met. We stayed in touch for a long time. Almost worked together a couple other times, and just our relationship together, I think, is a really good working relationship. We keep each other centered, right, and play off each other really well. But there's a ton of respect there, and I couldn't be more excited about just how things have gone up to this point, but how things have gone over the last couple years with our ability to work together.
So it's not like they've been just tossed into a room and say, hey, figure it out. These guys have been on staff together for 2 years, coming up with a dynamic offense. Now, they weren't at the head of the table where Mike Denbrock and Brian Kelly would sit, and now they are. But this is not a new thing for those two guys. It's a relationship that dates back, obviously, further than I knew. But I think these guys kind of understand. And I don't want to be disrespectful at all of Cortez Hankton's spot here on staff. In fact, I think he's great. But I do believe that Joe Sloan is in a little bit more position of power than Cortez Hankton as far as game planning and certainly play calling go. Cortez Hankton will be heard, I have no doubt, in spring, in summer, in camp, and when you get ready to go play the first game, and then on game day. But ultimately, this is going to come down to Joe Sloan, and I don't think there's going to be much quibbling with that. The other offensive new add to the staff is Slade Nagel, who was brought in to help with special teams and certainly coach the tight ends. And all of a sudden, he's kind of got an embarrassment of riches in that tight end room. But he's another, quote-unquote, cook in the kitchen here on the offensive side. And Joe Sloan spoke to Slade Nagel's impact on this staff.
Really, when we wanted to add a tight end coach in terms of somebody who had call plays before, somebody who understood how we put all the things together from an offensive standpoint, I think what Slade did at Tulane for the last couple years speaks for itself. And I think he brings a ton of value to what we're doing and how we're trying to expand our offense and do some different things and a variety of things, I think, that match our current personnel and the personnel we'll have in the future, right? That's what we always want to do. But his ability to do that, he's been a football coach a long, long time. I've known him since I first got in the state and been friends a long time. The relationship that we have, the honesty that we can have back and forth, and that he can have amongst our staff, right, with he and Cortez and myself and really everybody in the room. But he brings a huge value from I think a development standpoint of the tight ends and just his coaching ability. But on top of that, his ability to help in terms of formate things and make sure we're attacking people the right way, especially when it comes to the run game.
I'm excited to see what LSU's tight ends do this year. We're going to talk about it in an hour from right now. Because that's a room that was empty when Brian Kelly got here, and now it looks like a real strength of the team. And when you look at what they've lost in terms of pass catching at wide receiver, with Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors about to be real rich dudes, there are a lot more receptions to go around, and I think the tight ends are going to gobble some of those up, and we'll talk about that in Slade Nagel's position in hour number 2. But I want to kind of put a bow on this talk about what Joe Sloan had to say about the new staff with the impact that Mike Denbrock leaving is going to have on this group, because he was the elder statesman there. He's been around the block multiple times, calling plays all over the country in all different kinds of conferences across different decades. Like, he's done a lot of coaching offensive football and calling plays. Now, Joe Sloan did it a little bit at Louisiana Tech, and Cortez Hankton's seen the highest of the highs at Georgia with the national championship, and it's not like anything's going to completely catch these guys off guard. But the fact of the matter is that Mike Denbrock was there as a security blanket for everybody on the offensive staff over the last 2 years, and he's no longer there. So now the question becomes, how much of this offense remains the same because Joe Sloan and Cortez Hankton were still here, and how much of it is really going to be shaken up? Everyone understands you don't have Jaden Daniels and his dynamic running ability at quarterback. You don't have Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, who after 3 weeks last year were just All-Americans. They were awesome. You've got some talent, but you got to bring those guys along. So there are some things that are the same. Great offensive line, capable running backs, veteran quarterback. Even though Garrett Nussbaum hasn't played a lot, he is a veteran at quarterback. But you have a lot of different options. So the question was raised, like, how much of Mike Denbrock's offense is still here?
The nuts and bolts of what we do and the foundation of what we do was set here over the last couple of years, right? When Coach Denbrock came in and we put this offense into effect. And what we've done as an offensive staff, we have 4 of us that are still here. So a lot of that carryover. Plus, we have a lot of guys who played in our offense the last 2 years. So we want to keep the building blocks of who we are. But, right, no matter who's talking to you at this podium, you got to build your offense around the personnel that you have. We're doing that, right? We're growing. And just like we did 2 years ago going into this past year and making an evaluation of where we're at and what we needed to do, we've sitting down as an offensive staff and we're continuing to do the same thing.
I'm curious because y'all know that you don't run to me for your X's and O's. But there's some stuff that's pretty obvious that's going to change. There's not going to be as much quarterback run design. It's just not as big a threat. There's not going to be as much read option. There should be more traditional counters, powers, that type of running. You didn't have to do that with Jaden. You probably do now. I think the tight end's more involved this year than they were last year, just based on personnel. But I'm curious if I'm sitting there in Reliant Stadium, and I'm not Reliant. It's Reliant would be, is that it? I think it is. Or Allegiant Stadium? I got nothing. I don't know what the Vegas Stadium is. But when we're in Vegas, Alliant. I can't get there. I feel like Reliance in Houston, but we'll get there. We'll get there in the break. When I'm there in the stadium, I'm curious if I'll see something and go, oh, yeah, that's something I recognize from last year, or if you look down and it's completely unrecognizable. I mean, Joe Sloan's telling you the nuts and bolts are going to be the same, and I think that's from Brian Kelly. There's going to be a physicality to the run game. There's going to be a priority on getting the ball to the tight end. I think that stuff is non-negotiable with Brian Kelly, but the question is, how drastically different is this going to be? And I think that's something we're all very, very excited to see. So that's a little bit of Joe Sloan. We'll hear a little bit more from him coming up at the top of hour number 2. It's What If Wednesday. We got some great submissions from Twitter that we'll get to at the bottom of hour number 1. So plenty to get to. Jay Johnson met with the media. We'll talk a little bit about that. No cell phones for the players, but there will be a cell phone in Cokie Riley in his hand, and we're going to talk to him on it coming up next. Got that transition?
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Power up your next project with John Deere Deals by Sunshine. Whether you're working hard or playing hard, our knowledgeable team will help you find the right product for you. Ask us about our amazing tractor package promotions. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you.
Time to start dancing in the desert. It's the 2024 NCAA Men's Final Four in Phoenix. Tune in for live coverage starting Saturday afternoon at 3. From the team at Westwood One right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
action here on this Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. It's a What If Wednesday, so we will do a little bit of that coming up in the next segment. Excited. I got a ton of really good submissions there on Twitter, none of which were from Richard Condon from our sister station over here on 8.1, who likes to send off some tweets from time to time. Do we have Koki back there, guys? Because he said he's ready to roll. So we'll get to Koki here in a second, talk some LSU baseball. Jay Johnson met with the media a little bit earlier today, and he had a lot of interesting things to say. He's at a spot right now that he has not been in his LSU career, where things seem to be kind of breaking down. I don't think there were a ton of expectations on LSU 2 years ago when he took over. Obviously, you've got Dylan Cruz, you've got Trey Morgan, you've got Jordan Thompson, you've got some guys coming back you feel really good about. You've got Mikhail Hilliard, and that's a team that has some talent and some names that you recognize, but not necessarily a ton of expectations in the middle of a coaching change. And so, while they didn't cruise through SEC play by any stretch of the imagination, they did achieve, and they got into the postseason, and everybody was fairly happy with where things were. After last year, the expectations go through the roof, obviously, with this baseball program, and rightly so. They should be there. That's where the expectations should be. You should be a top 8 seed more times than you're not. You should be knocking on the door of Omaha, and you ought to be playing very meaningful baseball deep into June very, very often. Well, you're at a place right now where you're 2-7. And so the tenor of things has changed a little bit inside that baseball program and then in press conferences. And that's something that we have not seen yet with Jay Johnson. So he met with the media for a long time today, about 25 minutes. And obviously they're in a spot right now where they lost 4 in a row and things are a little bit shaky. Koki Riley's been covering it every step of the way for the Advocate, and he joins us every single Wednesday, does so now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Koki, how are you?
Doing pretty good. How's it going?
It's going all right. Let's go back to Fayetteville before we go to Monday and then what we heard from Jay Johnson last night on his coach's show and then today. How competitive was LSU in Fayetteville?
I'd say they were fairly competitive. I think to say that they deserved to win the series or they definitely deserved to win one game might be a step too far, but I thought they were in every game. I thought that they kind of got away with being, as competitive as they were on Thursday, in part because of the amount of traffic they were giving up and the amount of walks they had, especially in comparison with what they were doing on offense, which obviously that was going to be a tough task for them offensively. I'm not blaming the offense in any way, but at the same time, like when you're giving up as much traffic on the bases as they were with all the walks, and then you're not, reciprocating that on the other side, you're probably going to lose by, more than 3 or 4 runs, and they ended up losing by 3 or 4 runs. So there's that, and I think the game where they were easily the most competitive in was the Friday game. Maybe not easily, but the game that they were the most competitive in was the Friday game, and Griffin Herring was fantastic, and he really kept them in that. But it was a little disappointing to see Luke Coleman walk 5 batters, and then offensively, it was. They showed some signs of life against Mason Molina, but they only scored 3 runs. So, again, it's just you're not finding that consistency on either side of the ball. And then, what happened on Saturday is what happened on Saturday. They looked the pitching was very, very shaky, probably maybe the shakiest it was all weekend in some cases. They were getting hit pretty hard in that game. It was a promising outing from Gavin Guidry, and they scored a couple runs, and they nearly had a home run that gave them the lead. But I thought overall Arkansas was the better team in that game as well. So that's kind of my wrap up for the weekend, I guess.
What'd you make of Luke Holman's outing?
It just didn't seem like he had his best stuff in terms of location. And I don't think it was necessarily like a swing and miss problem. I think that was a bigger problem for Gage Jump. Gage Jump had a lot of trouble getting strikeouts with his start. But for Luke Holman, it was the walks. It was, falling behind in counts. It was, stuff that he really can't afford because he's not someone who, has the most electric stuff. So when you don't have the most electric stuff, you have to be able to hit your spots. And he just wasn't hitting his spots. And I don't think it was like a strike zone problem from the umpire. I think that was a bigger issue on Thursday. He just wasn't quite hitting his spots. He walked 5 guys. Those last 2 or 3 walks turned into runs, and that 3-run inning was kind of what kept Arkansas's offense in the game because they ended up struggling against Griffin Herring when he came in relief. And again, Herring was amazing, and he was easily the best pitcher this past weekend, and his progress has been one of the few positive signs of the last few weeks.
No question about that. Ashton Larson hits a big home run in the Saturday game and then is in the 3-hole come Monday. Do you think that that's a guy they're going to continue to give opportunities to?
At least against righties. I think it's him and Jake Brown. I think Brown, a coach mentioned this on his show on Monday, but Brown had a knee injury against Florida, and I think that's kind of slowed him down. And then Brown and Larson are their 2 young left-handed hitting options off the bench, and against righties, I think he's definitely going to be an option to start for them, and with Fry being more of an option against lefties. So yeah, like I thought it was interesting to see him hit as high as 2nd or 3rd in the order, but he generates pretty good at bats. He doesn't really get outside of his plan too much, and he has some pop too. So as you saw the home run, I don't think he got all that ball and it still went out. So yeah, he's definitely a talented guy, and I really like his swing, and I wouldn't be surprised if we just see him more in the lineup, especially against right-handed pitching moving forward.
What the heck was Monday?
You tell me, man. It's one of those sort of things, right? And I thought offensively it was a pretty embarrassing performance, especially offensively. I mean, only 4 hits. They rarely hit the ball hard in that game. Brady Neal had easily the best hit of the game with that 2-run home run, but really outside of that, there wasn't a lot. I think one of the hits that he rewarded Tommy White was, it probably should have been an error. And that was like the first hit of the game. I think that was like in the 5th inning. So it was particularly embarrassing offensively, especially against the Southern pitching staff that just has not been good really at all, even for their level of competition this season. And then on the flip side, the pitching, like, it just pick an issue. And the one thing I will say about the pitching is that, 8, if you look at the overall numbers, 8 guys give up 8 earned runs, 11 hits, 6 walks. That's terrible. But like most of that came from like 2 or 3 guys. Like Sam Dutton threw 2 scoreless innings. Like Cade Anderson struggled, but he had 6 strikeouts, so the stuff is obviously still there. But what got them into problems was, Christian Little just not pitching well at all, and then having to get pulled out in the middle of the inning for Justin Lohr, and Justin Lohr, getting rocked a bit, and all of a sudden the numbers start going up. So I think there was 2 or 3, maybe 4 guys who had very concerning performances, and there's a few guys who were fine, or even good. So the pitching, you could make a case that it maybe wasn't quite as bad if you go individual to individual as it actually was, but at the same time, and also we didn't mention the defense, but the defense was really poor as well. Michael Braswell had another error at shortstop. I still worry about his foot speed there and his arm strength on the run. And Stephen Milam just simply missed the ball that went right through his legs. It was, especially in the middle infield, it was really tough to watch. And yeah, it was just one of the worst performances I've seen this team have I've covered the team the last 2 years as well. So I've maybe seen period since I started covering this team. It's definitely, I haven't thought about this really until just now, but it has to be up there for me.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. Even the run rule games in the SEC didn't look as ugly as that one did on Monday. The tenor has been interesting to hear. Jay Johnson post-game after that one, his coach's show last night, then the press conference today, fielding questions he hasn't really fielded in 2 years here. What did you make of his decision to ditch the cell phones in the locker room?
When I hear something like that, it feels gimmicky, but he's kind of insisted on that. It was less of it's not really a punishment. It's more of just eliminating distractions and having the focus be the focus. And this team just needs to be hyper-focused right now, not just focused. So that's the way he's at least trying to frame it. But it definitely sounds like a punishment. And, if it works, it works, right? Like, I think people are, it's like, it doesn't, like, all this stuff is kind of talk until we see how it translates onto the field, right? And that's kind of my takeaway with it. It's definitely something that's notable. It's definitely something that's, worth mentioning. But at the same time, like, I don't know, it's hard to say what kind of effect it will have specifically until we see it out on the field and, we get to talk to some of the players afterwards about, like, what it's done and their reactions to it. So,
what today that Jay said piqued your interest?
A lot of it was, in some ways, it was like a continuation of what he's been talking about really since the Southern loss in terms of just like, limiting distractions, you just working through the problem, going right through it head on, how tough the SEC schedule has been the last few weeks. One thing I did think kind of like jumped out to me a little bit was, I think I asked a question somewhere around like, who sort of stepped up as more of a vocal leader. And he said that a lot of guys have tried, but it hasn't quite clicked yet. And he didn't really mention anyone specifically as to, like, who has really stepped up as like a vocal leader for this team. But he didn't say, no one's trying. He just didn't really say it's like working yet for any, one that they're responding to one guy in particular or two or three, which I thought was like kind of interesting, just because usually when you ask a kind of I won't say a layup question, a question like that, you usually get some sort of response like, oh, this veteran guy and that veteran guy has really stepped up and, it has, created these player-only meetings and, all that sort of cliche stuff that we hear, right? But the fact that he didn't really mention anyone or didn't want to mention anyone, I thought was notable, I guess.
Are you gathering the sense that just the hole that Cruz and Skeens and Beloso and Dugas and Thompson and Morgan and those guys left in this locker room, guys are walking in there and looking around going like, where are they? Like, I haven't heard answers like this, and certainly everyone's disappointed in the level of play. Is there just too much missing from last year's team?
You'd be a fool not to say that it's making some sort of effect, right? Because those are, and I'm not saying it's because these guys are like cowards or they're not good people or they're not good leaders or anything like that. I don't think anyone is. I think it's unreasonable to say that, because especially since, again, we're not even halfway through the season if you're including the SEC play in the NCAA tournament. So I guess I think that, of course, when you don't have those guys, it's going to have an effect on the field and off the field, right? And Cade Beloso was just a steadying force, and Gavin Dugas was as well, and Jordan Thompson, for all the little mistakes he would make and some of the strikeouts that he would have, he was a steadying force. And Trey Morgan, and obviously Dylan Cruz and Paul Skeens. Like, when you lose all those guys that I mentioned, there's going to be some sort of adjustment period, whether it's off the field or on the field, and we're really seeing that on the field. And yeah, like how this team finds its own identity, finds its own leaders, is something that's going to be, worth monitoring as the season goes along. But to be fair, it's not like they don't have any veterans either. Alex Milazzo's still on this team. He's been in this program for a while. Hayden Travinski, same with him. And I know Coach Johnson talked about, a lot of guys being elevated in terms of their hierarchy on the team from last season. But it's not like they're a bunch of freshmen either, like two or three freshmen play regularly, not even, or I guess even semi-regularly on the team, positional player wise. And They have a few pitchers here and there who play who are freshmen, but this is a pretty sophomore and junior heavy team. And I'm not saying like they don't have any experience. So it's just, it's tough because those guys are definitely pieces that are missing, but I don't want to use that too much of a crutch for their issues either. Does that make sense?
It does. They're just going to have to play better, and that starts hopefully tomorrow at the box against Vanderbilt. Koki Riley will be there, and he'll be here next Wednesday. We appreciate the time. Enjoy some baseball this weekend.
Awesome.
He is Koki Riley, LSU beat reporter for The Advocate, covering the baseball team, always with us on Wednesdays. Take a time out. Come back with more. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com. They do whole home audio, television installation, video surveillance. They are your one-stop shop. Look, when we moved, I don't know how to take down or mount a television. They can do that. That's some of the easiest stuff they do. You can get a little bit more high-tech with it, wiring your home for surround sound. You can have sound out on the patio, out on the outdoor area. If you've got a pool area and you're looking for some tunes out there as the weather heats up and you're going to be spending more time on the grill and in the pool, folks at Audio Video Security Solutions can help you out with that. We love to cook and listen to music while we're in the kitchen. They've got us hooked up with some speakers in the kitchen that can be voice automated. You can just tell it what to play, and they can do that kind of thing. They're so awesome. They're local. And the best part is when you give Audio Video Security Solutions a phone call, you're going to get the owner, Mitchell Fisher. 225-439-7920. And he's going to be on site for the job. He was on site at my house with his team, and they got everything all straightened out. Check him out online, Audio Video Security Solutions. They're at AVSSLA.com, AVSSLA.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency.
The Bench with Jacob Hester and T-Bob Hebert. Mornings from 7 to 10 on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Half of your work week in the rearview mirror. Thanks for hanging out with us here on a Wednesday. Angel Reese has made her decision, what her future holds. We'll talk about that in about 10 minutes. But it's 1:30. It's Wednesday. It means it's time, Jordan Kitchens, to play some What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
All right, Hunt. We're going to make sure that this is the best What If Wednesday.
It's a low bar with Beck, but we'll figure it out.
Oh, no. We're going to step over the bar. We're going to step over the bar today. So, to start us off with the first What If. What if Will Wade takes the Arkansas job?
All right, so the speculation is that Eric Musselman may move on and go to USC. If Will Wade takes the Arkansas job, I will be physically ill. Like, Vanderbilt's one thing. I don't really hate Vanderbilt. I wouldn't be wild about it, but it is what it is. I don't like any Arkansas success whatsoever, and I think he would have success there, and that would make me physically ill. So that needs to not happen. Just somehow, some way, not happen. I was really hoping Louisville would be the call. Really hoping maybe Michigan, Ohio State would make a call. It's just, I can't. Arkansas would not. I can't have that.
I mean, you do understand that it's going to add to the story, though.
Well, I don't care about that. I care about Arkansas having success with my coach.
You're right.
That is not acceptable.
Okay, next What If. Josh on Twitter. What if the 2020 baseball season isn't interrupted and LSU hosts a super regional and makes it to Omaha? Does 2021?
Well, that's interesting because that team was destined to very much not host a super regional and go to Omaha. That team looked really rough. The front end of the pitching staff looked okay, but after that, you were pretty weak offensively. It did not look good. You got no hit in Houston. But I think if he's a top 8 that year and makes it to Omaha, yes, I think he would have coached longer than 2021. I think that part of the slipping of the program was part of the reason that coach decided to move on. So if that's the what if in 2020 you get past the SEC opening weekend where they're about to head to Oxford and you play it out and they're a top 8 and they get to Omaha, yeah, I think Maneri would still be the coach.
Alrighty then. So what if you could allocate by percentage LSU's NIL investment between football, basketball, and baseball?
Whew. That's tough, and that's the world we live in now, right? You've only got so many donors with so many dollars. So you've got to make sure you allocate it in the right places, and you got to make priority. I know that everybody around here functions through football, and football is the cash cow, football is the golden goose, football is what drives this entire bus. So it would be probably foolish for me not to allocate 5%. And here comes the problem, because then I'm not alone in this thinking. I mean, yeah, personally, I would really love it if we cranked up about 65% of the baseball program and that. I'm not going to do that to everybody here. I want LSU's football team to be great too. But that's where basketball sits. When you go to the cash people at LSU and say, all right, we've got to spend this money, they're going to spend this much on football players and this much on paying football coaches not to coach and this much to paying football coaches to coach. And all that's a lot of the money. And then you're going to spend some money on baseball. That's been very obvious. And basketball kind of, well, if we've got some left over here. And it's just nearly impossible to build a competitive roster that way if you don't have the dollars. That's just the name of the game. and make fun of Will Wade and talk about what went wrong and all the dumb stuff and the wiretaps and all that kind of stuff. Sounds like they found some dollars, and they definitely found some players.
Yep.
So that's the crux of the LSU basketball job. There's just not that many dollars left over.
So do you think that there is a world where the basketball team does bring this money in, or you just think they're just always going to be at the bottom of the totem pole?
Yeah, you've got to show that you've got the coach who can go do it and can get the players once the money's available, put them on the floor, coach them, and win. LSU goes to back-to-back Elite Eights. The money will be flowing in down the Mississippi River. Like, it'll be all over the place because this, despite the fact that it's third on the totem pole and despite the fact that it hasn't had a long, rich history, it's just had little blips, people really care when we get good. And it happens every once in a while, and it's great. There's just not enough sustained success for people to care enough.
All right, next, what if? This one's from Preston Guy. What if Zach Mettenberger gets the nod in the 2012 BCS National Championship?
You can't do worse offensively, so I don't know that they would have done worse. You can still just turn around and hand the ball off and not complete passes, and that would be what it looked like. Mettenberger is the most talented quarterback on that team by a country mile. But we saw him in 2013, and early on, they weren't great. They went to Auburn and couldn't score. They went to Florida and couldn't score. Like, he became a 3,000-yard passer in 2014 when they in 2012, he wasn't very good. In 2013, he became a 3,000-yard passer with Odell and Jarvis and all those guys. He wasn't ready, I don't think, at that point. I would like to look at it, and I think LSU probably does a better job because trying to line up and run the ball into that front was just an impossibility. LSU caught him off guard with a couple of option plays in Tuscaloosa and made it happen, but suggesting that LSU would have won the game if Mettenberger went out there because he was a 3,000-yard passer eventually and became an NFL draft pick and started some games in the league. He wasn't that guy at that point. We saw that early in 2012. So I'd love to try to change the outcome of that game, but I think we know that wasn't a very good matchup in the end.
So to stay on the infamous 2012 National Championship, the next what if is, what if we swap QBs for that game?
At that point, I do think LSU wins because McCarron was functional at that point. He wasn't the guy that was in the Heisman Trophy running a year later, but he was functional, and he showed that in that game. And there wasn't a huge difference between LSU's defense and Alabama's defense that year. Both of them were unbelievable. And there wasn't a huge difference between their offenses either. But there was a huge difference at quarterback and in the trust that the staffs had. It's been very well documented that Saban went to A.J. McCarron in December of that year and said, look, we're going to throw it. We're going to throw it a lot, and we're going to throw it at Tyrann Mathieu. They apparently had some psychological guy come in and studied LSU. Alabama did, and they saw that Tyrann Mathieu was the heart and soul of that team. They said, if you can make him look bad, you can deflate them. And they threw it at Tyrann, and it worked. It wasn't like they went up and down the field. They scored one touchdown, but he was better than Jefferson and Lee, and at that point, Mettenberger. And I think if you swap the quarterbacks and you swap the trust that the staff has in the quarterback, then yeah, I think LSU would win the game.
All righty then. So this is the last one. Last what if for the day. From Twitter, what if LSU beats Auburn in 2016?
So obviously that's the game that got Les fired. It was the Danny Etling throw in the back of the end zone on the last play of the game that got overturned and wasn't ruled a touchdown, and then Les got fired the next day. So things were obviously already on very thin ice. You had gone to Lambeau and lost, and this was your second loss in September, and that's when the plug was pulled. Inevitably, I think the move is still going to be made at some point. I mean, they fired Cam Cameron in the process, and then Ensminger took over the next week, and they beat Missouri 42-7, and you beat Southern Miss anyway, and you'd probably beat Ole Miss too, but Alabama's going to beat you. It would have happened at some point. Florida came into Tiger Stadium in the Hurricane game and won. Les was not long for it at that point. Scott Woodward has made his mind up, and that was just the crack he needed to see. The offense was terrible at that point. You'd lost to Wisconsin by scoring one offensive touchdown. You scored 34 on Jacksonville State. You barely squeaked a win by over Mississippi State 23-20. And then at Auburn, you went and scored 13 points. And it was very clear the offense was broken. The staff was done. They had to make a change, and it was going to happen at one point or another, Auburn game or not. So it wouldn't have obviously happened on that Sunday, but it may have happened at some point. Interestingly enough, if we're going to extrapolate on that what if, I might not be sitting in this chair if LSU beats Auburn. because the chain of reactions that happened, they fired Les Miles. They promoted Ed Ogeron. Derek Panamsky was working on our morning show and went to work to Ed Ogeron, and I got a call from Jordy Culotta at 6 o'clock on Sunday night saying, hey, I'm on the air in 13 hours and Derek's gone. Can you come fill in? And so I did fill in for a few months until they found T-Bob and brought him in full time. But that gave me my first like day-to-day radio experience. And then all of a sudden, a couple of years later, something pops up and here I am sitting here. So I guess I've never thought of it that way, but you could extrapolate that Auburn game when I was at an engagement party looking up at a TV on mute and had no idea what was going on, to maybe me sitting here in this chair. So that's an interesting what if that we didn't think we would get to. Well done, Jordan.
Honestly, that just shows you the butterfly effect is very real.
It is very, very much so real. Also real, Angel Reese headed to WNBA. We'll talk about that coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. I give you that website every single day. It's OneBathAndClosets.com, but I can give you the phone number as well. If you want to call David, set up that free consultation to get your process started. It's 225 right here in Baton Rouge, 400-8005. 400-8005 is the number you need to call, whether it's a customized bathroom. They handle the entire process. You don't have to call 4 contractors to get your entire bathroom done. You call 1. David Duvall and One Bath and Closets, they handle it from soup to nuts. Maybe it's not an entire bathroom renovation that you're looking for. Something simple, like a tub-to-shower conversion. You've got that tub. It takes up a bunch of space. You don't ever use it. You'd like a glass walk-in shower, change the aesthetic and the functionality of your bathroom. They can do it at One Bath and Closets. The website's got pictures of their great work. It's got testimonials from their satisfied customers, and you can request that free consultation. It's all there at OneBathAndClosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Power up your next project with John Deere Deals by Sunshine. Whether you're working hard or playing hard, our knowledgeable team will help you find the right product for you. Ask us about our amazing tractor package promotions. Learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at SunEquip.
Join us for the Thursday edition of Live at Lunch from Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar and Town Square Pizza. John Brady will be with us to talk about the Final Four. Doug Thompson on LSU baseball and Dwayne Colucci. Randy McKay and Matt Newman's all from Las Vegas talking about the Final Four. Live at Lunch from Jolie Pearl, 11 a.m. to Thursday on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Interesting way that the WNBA draft works is the players who qualify for the NCAA tournament have 48 hours from the time their team finishes their season, whether you're the national champs or you lose, to declare whether you're going to join to stay in college or declare for the WNBA draft. LSU's entire roster has eligibility to come back. Everyone on the roster. That includes Angel Reese. That includes Haley Van Lith, Anissa Morrow. Everybody has eligibility to come back. But we all knew that there are two decisions that are likely coming here, and they're Haley Van Lith's and Angel Reese's. We talked to Matthew Bruni yesterday from On3. He said he thought that Haley Van Lith would either transfer or would take her career professionally, and he figured that Angel was 50-50. I have not thought that Angel was 50-50 since I heard her postgame. When she talked postgame about the fact that her brand has kind of been built and it will follow her. Her Reebok deal will follow her. Clothing deal will follow her. She's obviously going to have the Instagram followers that she had, whether she leaves LSU or not. And kind of that is a big question. When you're thought to be a top 10 pick in the NBA draft, the NFL draft, the MLB draft, you don't have to worry about those conversations because the signing bonus and the salary are so huge. And we understand that's not the case in the WNBA. And in most instances, players in college can earn more than they could in the WNBA if you're at the top of the sport. Not someone who's coming off the bench for the middle-of-the-road team in the ACC, but these brands that have been created in women's college basketball, and we saw more people watched the game one between LSU and Iowa on Monday than in the history of the sport. So when I heard her say that, I'm going, if money's the only thing that would be keeping you at LSU, which is basically the case, then you're going to go. And I figured she would, and she is. She made her declaration today that she's going to take her talents to the WNBA draft. And I've done this segment before, and I asked this question to Matthew Bruni yesterday, but I'm going to do it again because now we have some finality to Angel Reese's career. There are two women's jerseys hanging in the Assembly Center, Simone Augustus and Sylvia Fowles, and they were the greatest players in the history of the program. They led LSU in the midst of a 5 consecutive Final Four runs. Simone was a National Player of the Year. They've now got MVPs and gold medals. They are monster names in the world of women's basketball. And Angel Reese's will join them one day. It will. She was a transfer, not unlike Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels, not unlike Paul Skeens. So she didn't spend a long time here, but in her 2 years, her accomplishments merit that her uniform goes up in the rafters. She was the team captain after transferring in, first year. Last season, she was all SEC defense, first team all-league. She was the MVP of the Greensville Regional. Of course, she was a first team All-American by the AP, the Athletic, United States Basketball Writers Association, women's basketball. First team All-American. She was the outstanding player in the Final Four when LSU won its first national championship. And she followed that up this past year by being the SEC Player of the Year, something only 2 other women in LSU basketball history have accomplished, Simone and Sylvia. And in her time here, LSU went 65-8. 65-8. I don't know what her future holds in the WNBA. I'm not a scout. I don't pretend to know how games translate in and out. Got a feeling Caitlin Clark will be just fine in the WNBA. I don't know about Angel Reese. She's not 6'6". I don't really care what happens when she plays for the Connecticut Sun or the Chicago Sky. That's not of consequence to me. What is what she did here in purple and gold. And she led, as the face of the program, a turnaround from a once proud program that fell asleep. And with Kim Mulkey coming in and bringing her in year 2, they rose to heights the program had never seen before. And because of that and all the accolades, ESPY Breakthrough Athlete of the Year, BET Sportswoman of the Year, Sporting News Athlete of the Year, International Champion, you will see up in the rafters one day Angel Reese is number 10, and it is well deserved. I got a chance to meet her. She worked with a client of mine here, recorded some commercials for Mercedes-Benz in Baton Rouge. Could not have been more pleasant, nicer, more agreeable, and great to work with. So that was a brief interaction I had with her. It was fantastic. She was great on the court for my alma mater, and wish her absolute best in what comes next for Angel Reese. Hour 2 is coming up after SportsCenter. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $22,500 off the new 23 Ram 1500 SCA truck. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $22,500 off the new Ram 1500 truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Power up your next project with John Deere Deals by Sunshine. Whether you're working hard or playing hard, our knowledgeable team will help you find the right product for you. Ask us about our amazing tractor package promotions. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. Another win now move for the Texans this NFL offseason, and it is a big one. They're acquiring receiver Stephon Diggs plus 2 draft picks from the Bills for a 2025 second-rounder. Houston's loaded offense, led by reigning NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, quarterback C.J. Stroud, includes running back Joe Mixon, receivers Nico Collins and Tank Dell, as well as tight end Dalton Schultz, adding one of the NFL's elites in Diggs. ESPN NFL analyst Louis Riddick.
He's not being brought in here to be the culture setter, the alpha, the guy who turns this team around. This team was already turned around. It was already heading in the right direction. This is about elevation. This is about being able to deal with Baltimore, to deal with Kansas City, to deal with Buffalo, to be quite honest with you.
The cap hit for the Bills this year with the Diggs trade is $31 million in 2024. LSU star Angel Reese declared for the 2024 WNBA draft. She is a projected first-round pick. NBA Bucks point guard Damian Lillard out a third straight game tonight versus the Grizzlies. Power forward Giannis Antetokounmpo is probable as he deals with a left hamstring issue.
Feeling great starts with a great shave, and great shaves start with Barbasol Shaving Cream. That's Barbasol Shaving Cream, an American classic for over 100 years. Close Shave America, Close Shave Barbasol.
From Studio 2 at the Worldwide
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2. It is a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Half the work week in the rearview mirror. Thanks for hanging out with us. Lots to get to over the next 60 minutes. Jay Johnson's taking LSU's cell phones. What does that mean? I'll talk about it in 15 minutes. SEC baseball power rankings coming up at 2:30. But right now, we do want to talk some LSU football. We, at the top of the show, gave you some sound from Joe Sloan. He was talking about things like the offensive staff and how much of Mike Denbrock's offense was still there. I thought some of that was really some fascinating stuff. But today, at this point, I want to talk about some of the nuts and bolts and the personnel on the offense. And it starts at tight end. I like talking about the tight ends on this LSU roster. I think that it's such a position of depth and talent, and it should be a focal point of the offense, in my opinion. While you're trying to work in some wide receivers without a ton of skins on the wall, I think that throwing the ball to Mason Taylor and throwing the ball to Kamorian Pimpton or Tradez Green or Mac Markway makes a lot of sense to me. They're the classic security blanket for a new quarterback, which is what LSU is going to be breaking in. So Joe Sloan spoke to the role for now junior tight end Mason Taylor.
Mason Taylor is one of our best football players. LSU fans know him for the last 2 years, and just his consistency and his ability to make plays. And I think we want to find ways to get him the ball. And I think you could see Nuss working his way, or obviously we're going to go where the read takes us, but putting him in positions where he potentially is a first, second, or third read, where the ball maybe will find him a little bit more. But I think, just from a consistency standpoint and an experience standpoint, he obviously brings a ton. And I think he's one of the best tight ends in the country, and we definitely want to utilize him that way.
I think that's fair to call him one of the best tight ends in the country. I can't speak to every tight end in the entire country, but Mason Taylor's pretty good, and he's been out there for 2 years. I think that it was maybe reluctance to put him out there right at the beginning of his LSU career, but you had to because there's nobody left. That's not the case now as these young tight ends have come in. And Mason Taylor is the elder statesman there, and he's the guy who's going to lead the group through the drills, and he'll be the first guy on the field. But I mentioned all those really talented young players that LSU has brought in, and that's not a surprise because Brian Kelly has done this wherever he has been. And it certainly was the case at Notre Dame where they were churning out tight ends and pumping them into the NFL. And I think LSU has a chance to do that with the guys that they've got on campus. So after Mason Taylor, what about the depth at tight end?
Our other young tight ends, when you look at Pimp and Mac Markway, just how they've grown and how we're trying to grow the offense and use those guys more multiple. You know, when we first got here, that was a room that really had to be rebuilt, and Coach Kelly and Coach Denbrock started that, and obviously they have a huge, Coach Kelly has a huge history with tight ends and what he's done with them over several years. But we wanted to grow that room, and I think we're close, right? We're close to getting there. And if, when you guys had an opportunity to be out at practice a little bit, I think you can see just how we want to use those guys a little bit more, just within the framework of what we do on offense.
I have to chuckle when he calls Kamorian Pimpton Pimp. Is that how we're going to refer to this LSU tight end for the next 3 years? Pimp? Because that's special. But just look at the guy. Look at Trey'Dez Green and Kamorian Pimpton. They are massive and can move. There is not a linebacker in the country, maybe save Harold Perkins, that can run and jump specifically with Kamorian Pimpton. None. There are very few 6'6" safeties, if any, that are going to be able to go up and deal with the catch radius that he's got. And Trey'Dez Green is built just like that. He's not quite as tall, but he's every bit the athlete, if not a better athlete, than Kamorian Pimpton. And we know what Mason Taylor's and Mac Markway is. I think that the sky's the limit for those tight ends in that room. And that's going to have to be a position group that is a strength immediately. Because you got a new quarterback. You're not huge with numbers at running back, and the wide receivers are still probably trying to figure some things out. So the tight ends are going to have to be ready to go from game one. The other part of the offense is going to have to be ready to go from game one is the offensive line, specifically in the running game, which will certainly help Garrett Nussmeier out. And Joe Sloan talked about what they want to do in the run game.
From the running back standpoint, I think you're going to see a few guys touch the ball. We're going to attack people. We're going to come off the football, and we're going to reestablish the line of scrimmage. With Brad Davis's mentality, he starts with the leadership and how he sets the tempo in the room, but really you watch, as he's been with these guys a couple years, you start to see it be player-led, and that's what we want to do. We want to establish a new line of scrimmage, and we want to attack people so that they have to fit the box, and then after that, we can let our skill players go do something special on the perimeter when they get the matchups.
That's a little bit of coach speak, a little bit of cliche talk, but the fact is that you've got an offensive line that you feel like can do that. It's one thing to say it. It's another to have an offensive line that's ready to roll. And with Campbell and Jones on the outside and with Dellinger and Miles Frazier on the inside, that's just a ton of returning snaps. A ton of returning snaps. You feel like those guys should be able to go out there and reestablish the line of scrimmage. Now, they did not against Florida State last year. They did not against Alabama last year. And oftentimes, Jaden Daniels had to do some things that were fairly superhuman. But these guys are a year older, and they're a year better, and I'm excited to see what their progression is. And it's going to be really important for those guys that DJ Chester gets up to speed very, very quickly. And Joe Sloan yesterday spoke about the guy who's taking over for Charles Turner, who played a lot of football for LSU.
Center's a hard job to do. Every play, you got to talk, you got to communicate, you got to get everybody on the same page. Then you got to snap the ball, then you got to block, right? And I think just how he, as a second-year player, has been able to go out and communicate effectively, consistently, and then the physicality he's still able to play with, right? Even as much thinking as he may be doing, playing with the physicality, and I think that's what's been really interesting to watch. And he has 4 returning starters around him, right? And he's a second-year player, and his ability to step in the huddle and communicate and take charge has been really good to see. I think he has a lot of the traits and qualities we want this program to be about that Coach Kelly built this program on moving forward, and that's something I think already is showing at his young age, and I think will continue to show, and he'll be a great leader for LSU.
Spring is not huge for everybody. I'm not overly concerned with Will Campbell's work this spring. I'm not overly concerned with Josh Williams at running back and what he gets accomplished this spring. Major Burns is changing position. So that's a little bit of a different story. But, spring is not huge for everybody. But for DJ Chester, I think it is. Because he's got to come in and grasp the offense and the terminology and get ingratiated into an offensive line that already knows its roles. You're just the only new guy. It's not like everybody's jumping in the foxhole to do this together and figure it out. You got to come in there with a bunch of guys that already know what's going on and get up to speed. And he's a little bit bigger than Charles Turner. He's listed by LSU's website at 6'6", 318 pounds. That's lean enough to be a center. It's a little bigger than your traditional center, but hey, we saw Ethan Posick do it, so I'm sure DJ Chester can do it. But this is a big spring for him to get acclimated to what's going on up front, and those guys have got to be the strength of LSU's offense when you hit the field against Southern Cal. You've got to be really good up front as well as at tight end, and those are the two positions I wanted to focus on. And Sloan then, to kind of cap things here, talked about how a veteran O-line, which this is outside of Chester, can help with Garrett Nussmeier's development.
We're going to build from inside out. So especially when all of a sudden Nuss is coming in and hasn't started as, a bunch of games in the past. I think to have that consistency up front, right, so he can have that level of trust and just how those guys are playing, obviously led by Will and Emery and just how they show up every single day. It speaks volumes, and I don't know that I could overstate what that means for a quarterback and what that means for our run game.
Look, I'm not trying to break down the USC game today. It's April. But I can already tell you, we could just record this right now and then run it back the week of the USC game. The offensive line needs to dominate early in that game and then certainly late in that game. If the offensive line falters, that's trouble. That means you don't have the run game going. You're going to lean on a first-year quarterback and some wide receivers that haven't played with him a ton. That we don't need to see. You need to see positive gains on the ground, third and shorts. You need to see an offensive line take control of a USC defense that's been bad for 3 years. That needs to happen. I personally, right here as we sit here in April, do not want to go through another 0-1 start. LSU has done that 4 years in a row. I'd really prefer to stay away from that. It starts with the offensive line. They've got to be the strength. I don't know about quarterback. I don't know about wide receiver. I don't know about this new defense. I know about the offensive line. They got to be awesome. And the feeling is that they will be. We'll just have to see when we show up in Las Vegas. So that's Joe Sloan. Heard a lot from him over the last couple of days, but I thought some of the things he had to say were very, very interesting. And I'm excited to see what this version of the LSU offense does look like as they move into the 2024 season. If you're looking for your LSU football content, it never stops at Hunt on LSU. That's our YouTube channel. Every LSU football segment that we do gets cut up and pasted right there in 10, 12, maybe 7-minute segments. And we'd appreciate it if you check it out on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. All your LSU football content will come right to your homepage if you hit that subscribe button. We certainly do appreciate it. All right, we're going to do some SEC baseball power rankings coming up at 2:30 in 15 minutes. When we come back, Jay Johnson is taking away the cell phones from his players, and he had another couple of issues that he wanted to talk about today in the media session. I listened to it. I'll give you my thoughts. Plus, I will tell you who LSU needs to start on the mound tomorrow. That's all next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Platinum Window Tint. You know the website by now, PlatinumWindowTintLLC.com. We tell you about the services they can handle with your windows. They can tint your commercial windows, your home windows, your auto windows, and that helps you beat the heat in the summer. But there are other services that they do offer, and you can check them out on the website, PlatinumWindowTintLLC.com. Their ceramic coating is one, and it's an awesome, awesome, awesome thing. If you've got a car that you're really proud of, that you want to take care of, the ceramic coating may be exactly what you're looking for. It's hydrophobic, meaning it repels water and some other harsh road contaminants. It's scratch resistant, so it'll create that diamond-like hardness to resist some minor scratches. It is stain-proof, so if you're talking about tree sap, bird droppings, anything that may happen down here in South Louisiana, protect your investment in your vehicle with some ceramic coating. It's at PlatinumWindowTintLLC.com. You can see galleries of their great pictures, of their great work. You can see the services, and you can request that quote online. It's Platinum Window Tint at PlatinumWindowTintLLC.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Power up your next project with John Deere Deals by Sunshine. Whether you're working hard or playing hard, our knowledgeable team will help you find the right product for you. Ask us about our amazing tractor package promotions. Learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated.
It's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR, presented by Pluckers. We're live from the Smoothie King Center in New Orleans, getting you ready for Pell's Magic. Can the Birds bounce back? Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You heard the promo there. Matt will be at the Smoothie King Center for After Further Review today, Pels and Magic. I can confirm Matt is at the Smoothie King Center because we have the video feed here in the studio. So he is there, and he'll be locked and loaded, ready to go in 45 minutes. But we still got 45 minutes here with you, and I want to talk a little bit of LSU baseball here in this segment. We did a little bit of that with Koki Riley back in hour number 1. Of course, our baseball breakdowns all year long brought to you by Pluckers. Last night on Jay Johnson's coach's show, he and Chris Blair had a little bit back and forth, and we're chatting about some things. And obviously, things aren't great. You got swept last weekend for the first time in 2 seasons, and you lost a game to Southern on Monday that you had no business losing and played very poorly in the process. And you look up, and everybody's aware that you're 2-7 in league play, and that's a really, really difficult spot to dig your way out of. And so they were talking a little bit about that, and one of the comments that Jay made was there's not going to be anybody on their cell phones in the stadium for a long time. And when I heard that, I kind of bristled a little bit. Not that it's a stupid thing and no one should ever do that like that. Not that. I just thought, man, that just sounds to me like it's a group of guys that maybe Jay walked in the locker room and everybody's buried in their phone and they're not listening to music and hanging out and having great camaraderie and team chemistry. That's just a guess on my part. I don't know anything. It just like feels that way. And I thought, man, if this team just doesn't get along, and as I mentioned to Koki back in the last segment, they come in and you're kind of looking around like, where's Skeens? Where's Cruz? Like, where's Morgan? Where's Beloso? Where's Dugas? Like these guys who were 1, super productive, and 2, just had such a great way about them. And sometimes that hole is just really difficult to fill. And maybe this group just doesn't have the leadership and the camaraderie that the last couple did. I don't know. Now, Jay clarified today when he met with the media and said it's not really a punishment. It's just like, when you're here, I need you to be working. And we have to dig our way out of this. And they asked, maybe, what about a day off? Why wouldn't you give the guys a day off that wasn't planned? And he said, well, we had a day off. It was on Sunday. And that's what we did on Monday. So that's not going to work. And so he's trying every button that he can push. I'm less concerned today than I was last night at the no cell phones thing. It's like, yeah, it's not ideal. I wish everything was peachy, and when you're winning, everything's fine, and you just kind of keep rolling. But when you're losing, everything's falling apart. It's the end of the world. And Jay's like, I've been through tough stretches. Keep in mind, this guy hasn't just won a national championship. He helped build a program in Arizona and took them to a couple College World Series. He helped build this program back up a little bit after a tough 2-3 year run. And he's been the head coach with Nevada. He's been at San Diego. Not everything's, well, the weather's good, but not all the baseball's awesome at San Diego. And so he's been in these spots before, just maybe not with the expectation that this group had on them. But that's where they find themselves right now. And so they're just going to have to go in there and work. And I've said this yesterday. I am going to say this right now, and I'm going to say it again tomorrow. This team needs something good to happen early. And I know Ashton Larson hit a big 3-run homer, and you took a lead in that game. White and Travinski hit back-to-back homers on Thursday, and you got involved in a tie game there. Some good stuff has happened. It hasn't all been a disaster, but they need just that breakthrough. And that's what Jay was talking about today when he was meeting with the media. He was like, nothing's going to happen because we concentrated more in the film room. We just need somebody to make the big swing. And then he mentioned Jordan Thompson's big 3-run double in the 8th inning against Tennessee last year in the box that just broke the seal, and they came out the next day and really played well and crushed Chase Burns in Tennessee. They need something to go right and to get a game. And so I teased coming into this segment, and I will stick to this, and this was something Jay was asked about today, and he knows what they're going to do from a starting rotation perspective, but he said he's not going to release it until they know what Vanderbilt's doing. And that's fine. LSU needs to start Luke Holman tomorrow. I know last week he said that we're trying to keep guys on normal rest, but he gave himself the out last week on our airwaves with the guys on off the bench. Said, look, we're going to give our guys rest. We'll see what happens this week. They both threw over 100 pitches. He was talking about Jump and Holman. We're going to keep them on normal rest. We'll figure it out. And Luke Holman bumped up against 100 pitches last week on Friday, and it is one day less of rest, and he said it's a big deal. LSU needs its ace on the mound tomorrow. It's 30 games, and they all count the same. But tomorrow feels important. And I just don't want to go out there with a starting pitcher, whether it's Javen Coleman or Griffin Herring or Thatcher Hurd or Cade Anderson or whoever you could conjure up to give that start to, that, hey, please go get us 10 outs. We'll figure things out starting in the 4th inning. I don't want to start the series like that. You're at home. You're facing a team that was atrocious offensively last week. Put your ace on the mound and go win this game. Now, he did that against Florida, and it didn't carry over the next 2 days, and you got beat. But LSU badly needs to win tomorrow. And the best chance LSU has to win the game is for Luke Holman to start. This is a guy who's been in college for 3 years now. This is a guy who, on 5 days of rest, after throwing 98 pitches, is perfectly capable of giving you 105 really good pitches. Now, he may not have his A stuff. He didn't have it in Fayetteville. He walked 5 guys, fell behind some hitters, gave up a 3 spot. Jay seems to think that had something to do with the offense, allowing an 8-pitch inning that made him go right back out on the mound. But he didn't have his best stuff last week. I'm aware of that. He's not a sure thing. He's a front-of-the-line SEC guy. He's not superhuman. He's not Skeens. He's not Nola. He may not even be Alex Lang right now. But he could be. And he's the best guy you got. And I'm just not willing to try to figure out game 1 of this series. Vanderbilt's got 3 really good guys in their rotation. So whoever you see from Vanderbilt tomorrow is going to be good. Whether it's Carter Holton, Bryce Cunningham, whoever you see, they're good. LSU needs Luke Holman tomorrow. He needs to stand up and be the ace of this staff. You can't fix everything in 3 hours tomorrow, and you can't even fix everything in 3 days this week. But you need to get off to a good start. The more this thing that's rolling downhill picks up steam, the worse it's going to get. And if you lose tomorrow, you're 2-8, and everyone knows it. You show up to the ballpark, and at the first sign of adversity, you're going, oh my God, this is not good. And the best way to prevent that is going with your best guy. Now, I don't know if the team is going to swing the bats great tomorrow. I don't know if they're going to play defense well. I don't even know who's going to be in the lineup. And I don't know who's going to be the starting pitcher. But I just don't feel like Javen Coleman or Griffin Herring or Thatcher Hurd is your best option tomorrow. I think it's Luke Holman. I'm curious to see what LSU does in this situation. Hopefully, they go to the big guy on Thursday night. We'll break it down tomorrow. Excited to get the voice of Vanderbilt baseball on tomorrow. We'll also, of course, talk with Joe Healy tomorrow. As we do every single Thursday, we'll talk with Chris Blair as he gets ready to call the game tomorrow night. So a lot of LSU baseball, all of our baseball reports all season long, brought to you by Pluckers. Get on by Pluckers. We were there last night. Really enjoyed sports trivia. Watched the Cubbies get a big win. Breggie's Creole Crush was flying off the shelves. People love that stuff over there at Pluckers. I also am a big fan of garlic parm. I'm a big honey barbecue fan as well. They got great flavors over there at Pluckers. Jumbo chicken wings, award-winning jumbo chicken wings, and ice cold draft beer. If you can't get out to the box this weekend, but you want to watch the baseball, they always have it on at Pluckers. You want to watch the Pels tonight, no better spot to get on by than Pluckers. They bring you our baseball breakdowns each and every day. We will step aside when we come back. SEC Baseball Power Rankings, where's LSU? That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
ESPN Bet, ready to take you through all the huge sports moments this spring. The exclusive sportsbook of ESPN has it all, including offers and promotions from Scott Van Pelt and Stephen A. Smith. From the playoff intensity to getting on the links and out to the ballpark, there is no better time to be a sports fan than the spring. New users to ESPN Bet get $100 in bonus bets for making any sportsbook bet. So download ESPN Bet today. What a play. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 in partnership with LeBears Lake Charles. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $22,500 off the new 23 Ram 1500 SCA truck. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $22,500 off the new Ram 1500 truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
The best.
Time to start dancing in the desert. It's the 2024 NCAA Men's Final Four in Phoenix. Tune in for live coverage starting Saturday afternoon at 3 from the team at Westwood One right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It's about that time. Got to get to some SEC power rankings. I got to tell you, we started things off a few weeks ago, and LSU was in the top 3 of my power rankings. They dipped a little bit last week after dropping the series to Florida. They dropped their first 2 SEC series. Didn't really have a choice but to bring them down. They go play the number 1 team in the country, and we know how that went. And then they lost to Grambling. It's the Southern, sorry. And it just hasn't been great. So we'll see where they end up. It's time for this week's edition of the SEC Power Rankings.
Hunt's SEC Power Rankings. When you want the definitive, unquestioned pecking order of the SEC, who do you call? Hunt Palmer. Take it away, Hunt.
Well, let's take it away. We got a change at the top. I've had the Tennessee Vols at the top the last couple of weeks. Not anymore. Arkansas has taken that spot here. They are 24-3. They are 8-1 in league play. I'm just so impressed with Arkansas from a pitching perspective. They brought in Christian Fauch and Will McIntyre in different games this weekend, and those 2 guys were absolutely nails for Arkansas. We know how good the rotation is. The bullpen has that power stuff as well. Look, Hagen Smith and Brady Tygart in the rotation. They both made 7 starts this year. They've each given up 1 double. 1 double each in 7 starts. Sheesh, they're really good. Peyton Stovall is finding it offensively, unfortunately. I have a hard time pulling for my Louisiana folks who go play in other places. Easy for me to pull for Dylan Cruz leaving Florida to go to LSU. No issue with that whatsoever. But folks that leave Louisiana, I get a little cranky about it. But Stovall's white hot, and it's a complete team. I've got Arkansas at number 1. I've got A&M at number 2. They are 26-3 on the season, 6-3 in league play. They're very balanced on both sides of the ball. They're number 3 in the conference in on-base percentage and number 4 in slugging. So they're getting on base. They're hitting the ball over the fence. They're hitting doubles. They're number 2 in the league in ERA. They're 3rd in strikeouts. The pitching was not awesome against Auburn, but the bats were able to bail them out. That's the beauty of having a little bit of balance there. Braden Montgomery is hitting .381 with 18 home runs. He is quite good. The Aggies are quite good. They are number 2 in my SEC power rankings. That leaves the Vols at number 3. I've dropped them down a couple of spots here. Blake Burke's hitting .400, and he leads the SEC in doubles. He's been fantastic for the Vols. They've got 4 guys with 10 home runs. They don't have an ace, though, and that's a little bit of concern. Drew Beam's batting average against is .288, which is a little bit too high for my liking. A.J. Causey's been okay. A.J. Russell's been hurt. The pitching's just not quite there, and that's why Georgia unloaded on them in Game 1 last week, but they came back and won the series. I still think they're very, very good, but they're not quite maybe what I had initially thought. Florida is number 4 here. Their record's not good. It's 17-11. I mean, that's the same amount of losses as Mississippi State and more. I mean, same as Auburn, who I've got down towards the bottom, but they're losing a lot of midweek games. They're winning on the weekends. They don't have a frontline ace. They took Cade Fisher out of that spot, plugged Brandon Neely in to try something there, and we'll see. But Jack Caglione could technically be their ace. He just pitches on Sunday. He's 5th in the SEC in ERAs and 3rd in the SEC in ERAs among starting pitchers. The only 2 that have a better ERA than Jack Caglione are Luke Holman and Hagen Smith. So he's been fantastic. You just see him on Sundays. Florida not swinging the bat as well as I thought they would. 13th in Dean batting average, but they're tied for 3rd in home runs. They just bludgeoned you. We saw that he's hit 6 against LSU in that Game 3. So it happens. They're just very good, even though the statistics are a little wonky. I got Florida at 4. Number 5 on my list, LSU's visitors this weekend, the Vanderbilt Commodores. All 3 weekends have been sweeps. They've swept twice and been swept once. They're tied for 10th with LSU in runs scored, and they're dead last in home runs, 13th in walks drawn. That's not a great recipe for offense, but if you can win like they did last week, 3-1, 4-0, and 3-1, well, then I guess you're okay. Got a really good rotation, and they're talented. They need to swing the bats a little bit better, but this is mainly a talent pick here. Vanderbilt, who's 6-3 in league play, is number 5. Number 6, I don't understand how they're this good, but I think they might be. We'll see when the back half of their schedule shows up. I've got Kentucky at 6. They're 8-1 in league play. They've got an identity. Bless them. They're 5th in the league in doubles, 1st in hit by pitches, 1st in steals, 1st in bunts. And against Ole Miss, doing that, not hitting a ton of home runs, not being a team that is very powerful and slugs a lot. They scored 32 runs in 3 games, and their pitching's been good enough, even without a power ace on their team. They're 4th in the SEC in ERA and 2nd in opposing batting average. They're 13th in strikeouts. They're not striking guys out, but they're getting outs. Kentucky, number 6 in my SEC power rankings. Still no Tigers at number 7. I've got Mississippi State at the 7th spot. They're 19-11, 4-5 in league play. Their first 3 weekends were LSU, at A&M, and at Florida. Now it lightens up a little bit for the Bulldogs. They got Georgia this weekend in Starkville. Then they're at Ole Miss, who is struggling. And then they play Auburn in Starkville. That's 9 games where they can make a little bit of hay. Trans Los Angeles, 6th in the SEC in strikeouts. Basically, for Mississippi State, it's going to be how far can the top of the order take you. It's Amani Larry, Dakota Jordan, Hunter Hines. You got David Mershon. That's the crew that's got to carry it for them. They survived that gauntlet of 9 games. Now they got a chance to make a little headway in the next 9 in Starkville. All right, South Carolina, I've got at number 8. Carolina's 21-7, 5-4 in league play. They lost 2 out of 3 to Ole Miss. Then they swept Vanderbilt. And then they lost 2 out of 3 to Bama. So you try to handicap that. I don't know. Their next 3 are brutal. It's got A&M in Columbia, at Florida, and Arkansas in Columbia. On offense, they're 12th in the league in batting average. They're 1st in walks and 5th in runs. They're getting on base. They're scoring some runs. They're just not doing it with a lot of hits. Tough team to handicap, that South Carolina Gamecock squad, but I've got them at 8th. I've got Alabama at 9th, folks. We're still not to LSU yet. Bama's pitching numbers are bad. Greg Ferrone has kind of held the rope for them on Saturdays, but everybody else who starts for them has an ERA north of 6. That's not great, and it happens when Luke Holman moves on and Ben Hess hasn't been as good as you thought he would be, but they are hitting. Their offensive numbers are great. We'll see if that continues in league play, but I've got Bama at number 9. At number 10, your Fighting Tigers of LSU, 10th out of 14 teams right now. You're 20-10, 2-7 in league play. I mean, I went through these. This is a strange coincidence, but it is. They're 8th in batting average, 8th in slugging, 8th in on-base percentage, 8th in home runs, 8th in doubles. That's 5 categories. They're exactly 8th in the SEC. They're 7th in hits, so they're better at that, but it's a bunch of mediocre stuff. In terms of pitching, guess where they are in ERA? 8th. Guess where they are in opposing batting average? 8th. They've allowed the most walks, 2nd most wild pitches. That's not great. They have struck the most hitters out. But when you got a bunch of categories in pitching and offense that are 8th in the league, that doesn't add up to being great. And LSU is not at this point. I've got them at 10th. I got Georgia at 11th. They're 4-5 in league play, 23-6. They're 1st in the league in on-base percentage and slugging. That's a big deal. And Charlie Condon is hitting .505 with 19 homers. You know that by now. Their offense is very good. Their pitching stinks. It's 12th in ERA, 13th in opposing batting average, 10th in hits allowed. They give up a lot offensively, and so I think Georgia's going to potentially come back to earth here and probably will finish with a record below 500 in league play. I don't think these last 3 teams are very good at all. I don't even see a lot of strengths on these last 3 teams. I've got Ole Miss at number 12. At least they've won 3 games. Unfortunately for them, they're going to Fayetteville this week, which is not great. They don't have an ace. They don't have a star on offense. They don't have a real identity. They don't have a single player in the top 15 in the SEC in batting average, slugging percentage, or RBI. And this is Ole Miss. They've always got somebody that's a star. They don't on this team, and they don't have an ace. It's just not a very good team at this point. Auburn is 1-8 in league play. They needed 6 runs in the 6th inning against Arkansas to get that 1 win in 9 games. Look, they were competitive with A&M this weekend, but they did get swept in a series they were competitive in. They're now 1-8 in league play, 16-11 overall. I've got them at 13, and Missouri is at 14th. They've been outscored 51-15 in league play, 51-15 for Missouri. That's not very good. So that's your SEC power ranking. Starting at 1, Arkansas. Number 2, the Texas A&M Aggies. LSU still to play them. Number 3, the Tennessee Vols. LSU will get them next week. Number 4 is Florida. Vanderbilt visitors to Alex Box this weekend at number 5. Kentucky at number 6. Number 7, the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Number 8, South Carolina's Gamecocks. Bama comes in at number 9. Your Fighting Tigers of LSU, the 10th best team in the league by my expectation right now. Georgia, number 11. Ole Miss at 12. Auburn at 13. And Missouri, the Missouri Tigers at 14. That is your look at the SEC Power Rankings. We'll take a timeout. We will come back. We will play Take It or Leave It, and we will get on down the road. You're listening to a Wednesday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electric. Love our friends over at Boudreaux's Electric. Neil and Melissa have been running Boudreaux's Electric for 40 years. 40 years. You do something with 40 years, you kind of know what you're doing. The best time to think about a Generac generator is now. Not in the middle of storm season, not when your power goes out, not when there's a hurricane in the Gulf. It's now. Make that call and give yourself the peace of mind that when those storms do inevitably come through, you got protection and you won't have a power outage. The number is 985-397-1562. 985-397-1562. Give them a call. They'll have a technician come out. They'll assess your needs. They'll look at your business or your home. What do you need powered when the power goes out? Maybe you want everything rolling. They can do that. Maybe you just want it cooled off in there and the fridge working. That's fine too. Maybe you just want one TV. They can make it work for you with that Generac generator. You can check them out online, but why don't you give them a phone call as well? 985-397-1562. That is my friends at Boudreaux's Electric.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
The Bench with Jacob Hester and T-Bob Hebert. Mornings from 7 to 10 on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Matt's coming up next from the Smoothie King Center. It'll be Magic and Pelicans tonight, 7 o'clock from down in the Big Easy. You know, this is they're all huge for the Pels at this point, trying to avoid that play-in game. And the Magic have just been pesky for the Pels over the years. They have beaten the Pelicans in 14 of the team's last 18 meetings. And it's kind of puzzling because, you know, the Magic are a good team this year, but they've been kind of an up-and-coming team. Paolo Banchero kind of growing into the star that he will eventually become. But the Pels would seemingly have been a more stable franchise over the last couple of years. The injuries have certainly hurt that, but it's one of those deals where the Pels have been kind of owned by the Magic to this point. That needs to change tonight for sure. No Brandon Ingram, obviously, for the Pels, but Vegas sees it. ESPN Bet's got it as a 4.5-point Pelicans line right now. That's a little curious to me. Pels haven't been awesome at home, and they certainly haven't been awesome against the Magic. There's probably some value on Orlando tonight, but hopefully the Pels have enough to get it over the finish line and can win it tonight. It'll certainly take a big effort from Zion Williamson, who's shouldered a ton of the load now that B.I. is unavailable. You hope to get him back before the regular season does end, but won't have him tonight. Hopefully the Pels can get it done in the blender as they are 4.5-point favorites over the Orlando Magic, just clinging to staying out of that play-in game. Big news of the day in the National Football League. They've been talking about it on ESPN for hours at this point. Stephon Diggs sent from the Bills to Houston. Draft pick consideration headed back to Buffalo, and this has just been a continuation for Buffalo of kind of shedding salaries and trying to kind of reset things. You feel like, you know, Josh Allen's very much in his prime, but you've got a lot of good football left in him. This first push didn't get home, and now they've had to offload a lot of guys. They've cut a lot of guys, and they're going to have to reset. I don't know what that's like because the Saints never do it, but they're trying to do that in Buffalo at this point. And on the other side, Houston looks like an AFC contender at this point. You figure you're going to have to toss C.J. Stroud into that mix with Patrick Mahomes, with Joe Burrow, and with Josh Allen, with Justin Herbert. The elite quarterback play in that conference. Stroud figures to ascend toward that category at this point. He's just 1 year in, but I was listening to Charlie, and he makes a great point. Like, you don't see Carolina making a deal like this because they're not close. You don't see some of the other teams that have young quarterbacks making a deal like this because they're not as close as the Texans think they are. Colts could be in that category with Anthony Richardson. Don't think so. But Houston looks really good at this point and feel like probably the class of the NFC South, assuming Stroud's play continues to ascend the way it was last year. So huge move in the National Football League. Stephon Diggs headed from Buffalo to Houston to join up with C.J. Stroud. The Bills will try to figure some things out with other roster pieces this off season. All right, we've had a good show today. Been a lot of fun. Let's play some Take It or Leave It.
You can turn off and on.
All right. My first Take It or Leave It.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. I'm hot with it. So for the first Take It or Leave It, Bob Uecker is 90 years old and has been calling the Brewers on radio for 54 years. He's still grinding at 90 years old. Take it or leave it.
Turn that music down a touch, and I will leave grinding at 90. Now, you could say that's a great job. You just call baseball games. You sit there and watch baseball 162 times and make it happen over the airwaves. But still, at 90 years old, I certainly don't want to be grinding. I don't know that the odds are great that I'm making it to 90, quite frankly.
Don't do that.
I don't know if that's in the cards for me, but if I do make it to 90, I can promise you that I will not be working. That also goes back to one of the what ifs that we did. This was like a year ago. Talked about if you could be told the day you were going to die, would you want the information? I was 100% yes. Give me the information.
Really?
I got to be able to plan for what I'm doing, make sure the family's in good shape, make sure I've got enough money. Like, you got planning to work to live till 90. Like, you gotta have a lot in retirement if you're gonna step away at like 70. That's 20 years of no income.
Wait. So you'd rather know the day you die instead of knowing how you would die?
I would rather know the day. I need the day.
I don't know if I can do the day. That's just.
I need the day because I need the information to be able to plan. If I need to bump the life insurance up, we got to do that. I need to know how much money I need in retirement to step away. Now I know how long I need the info. It's got to happen. But I'm not working to 90 either way. If I'm going to live, I'd have to live till I was like 120 to work till I was 90, and that isn't going to happen. So I'm not working to 90.
Okay.
But Bob Uecker's a legend. I just hate the Brewers.
Yeah, shout out Bob Uecker. So, next one is Bryson DeChambeau has had this say in the LV Golf press conference. Well, there's multiple ways that we can solve this problem. I think that from a player's perspective, it needs to come back together for the fans. Number one, the fans are what drives this sport. If we don't have fans, we don't have golf. We are not up here entertaining. That's the most important thing as of right now, the low-hanging fruit. There's got to be a way to come together. How that comes together, that's all above us right here. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave this. This is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen anyone say in a press conference. Bryson DeChambeau standing up there and starting a quote by saying, I think from a player's perspective, it needs to come back together for the fans. Number one, the fans are what drive the sport. That is clearly not what you thought when you went and took the money from LIV. You did not do that for the fans. You did that for Bryson's checkbook. So, obviously, when you leave for LIV, where Mickelson is, where Dustin Johnson is, where Brooks Koepka is, and you split golf in half, that's not going to be good for the fans. It wasn't going to be good for the fans when you did it. It's not good for the fans today. If you want to tell me, like Phil Mickelson has said continuously, that this is about money and leveraging and getting the higher purses and getting the players paid more, well, I get that with LIV because they pay the players more. That makes all the sense in the world. I hate it, but it makes all the sense in the world. You splitting golf in half, going to play in a hit and giggle all over the place that nobody can watch because it's not on TV and nobody cares about it, and then telling me, well, now the sport's split up and it's really bad for the fans. We need to figure this out for the fans is the most tone-deaf thing maybe I've heard anyone say in the entire LIV discussion. Bryson DeChambeau continues to illustrate that he made himself into this persona of this mad scientist who's so smart and got all these things figured out. When he opens his mouth, you realize there's just not much going on upstairs. He just kind of starts talking. And at this point he started talking, I have said from the start, I don't necessarily blame the players and call them bad guys for taking hundreds of millions of dollars. That's a different thing a difficult thing to say no to. But you can't take the money and then go, man, we got all this money, but like this isn't that good because we play over here and they play over here, and that's not really good for the fans. No joke, man. Any league you split in half and half the players go over here and half the players go over here is going to be worse for the fans. Don't talk about the fans. You want to talk about growing the game and making more money for the players and the tour wasn't fair, then do all that, and that's all understandable. I don't agree, but it's understandable. This is not. This is just completely incorrect. But par for the course, to use a bad golf pun there for Bryson.
So, I'm not too familiar with, golfing and all that. So, Bryson, it sounds like he has a little bit of that Aaron Rodgers disease where he wants to be the smartest man in the room.
There's a little bit of that. I think Aaron Rodgers is smart. He's just a little arrogant.
Yeah.
I think Bryson is dumb. Okay. Like that's as polite as I can put it.
All righty then. Last, take it or leave it. Justin Thomas announced via Twitter today that he and his caddy, Jim Bones Mackay, have decided to part ways. Bones is headed back to TV. Take it or leave it.
I will take it. Bones is awesome on TV. Of course, Jim Mackay was Phil Mickelson's caddy for a very long time. Then they split, allegedly over money concerns. Phil wasn't paying. So then he went to television and did that for a little while, and then he jumped on Justin Thomas's bag for a while. They won the PGA Championship together. And Bones is obviously an awesome caddy, but he's a fantastic color analyst on television. He walks through the groups. He knows all these guys. He knows the shots. He knows the conversations with the caddies. He knows the golf courses. Like he's been in all of this stuff with Mickelson and Justin Thomas over the years, whether it's President's Cups, Ryder's Cups, Masters, U.S. Opens. Like he's just got so much firsthand experience. and he's great at communicating it on television. So I know he wants to caddy, and that's probably something that he'll get back into again because someone will have him come on their bag. But while he's not caddying, him on the television broadcast week to week on the PGA Tour is fantastic. So I very much would appreciate it if Bones came back to television. So that's it for Take It or Leave It here on this Wednesday. Pumped up about the show coming up tomorrow. We're going to talk a ton of LSU baseball on tomorrow's show. We will have our normal Thursday guest in Chris Blair. We'll also have the voice of Vanderbilt baseball, Andrew Allegretta. That's not the way that's said. Let's find it. It's Andrew Allegretta is going to join us on the show tomorrow as well. Luke Johnson will talk some Saints. I'll give my preview of LSU and Vanderbilt as well. What else do we have on Thursdays? Joe Healy at 1:30 talking SEC baseball. Curious on Joe's perspective of LSU and how they sit here at 2-7 after he watched them play 3 games in Fayetteville last week. So very much looking forward to Joe. We'll be heavy on LSU and Vanderbilt baseball on tomorrow's show, which of course will be brought to you by Rouse's. If you missed any of today's show, you can catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, you can find us, as well as on YouTube. Hunt on LSU for your LSU football, which we had a lot of today, and Hunt on Saints for your Saints football as well. Subscribe to those channels if you would. Like, subscribe, rate, review, all that stuff helps us out a ton. We opened the show with Joe Sloan-Sound talking about the LSU offense and how it's evolving with some new staff on hand. Koki Riley was with us at 1:15 talking LSU baseball. He met with Jay Johnson earlier today. It was a What If Wednesday. We got through that. Angel Reese goes pro. We talked about her legacy at LSU at the end of hour number 1. More Joe Sloan audio in hour number 2, as well as my thought that LSU really needs to start Luke Holman in the game tomorrow. That's it for us. Matt's coming up next from the Smoothie King Center in New Orleans. It's been the Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there.